think it depends what your aspirations are. If your aspirations are for Q3, then you don't want to put on a new set. If your aspirations are simply to get out of Q1, use all the tyres you want now and keep those ones back for a set in the race. But I imagine most people will just go for that set again, stick them on, and assume the track will get better for the second run and find a natural bit of grit if you've got hopes of making it all the way through qualifying.
Leclerc's only just got back to the pits now because he was the only one I think who didn't come straight in, Jenny.
He's done... Let me get this right. He's done a decent job because he's already got a time on the board. He's the only driver to a set of time. Is that going to be enough? Will he have to go out again? Surely. Doesn't he need
No. He'll have to go again. That's just the first lap of qualifying, and the times will tumble quite quickly around this track. Street circuit's always the track evolution's high. I'd be amazed if that's enough.
So. Okay. An odd bit of team radio there from Lance Stroll where he just kind of breathed a bit.
So Leclerc's time there that he's done, it would be quick enough for second in FP3 behind Pierre Gasly. But again, the track's just going to get better all the way, and yeah, he's definitely going to go out. But he was the first car on track, got round. They're taking a long time to get Stroll's car off the track.
Well, I think they've had to wait till Leclerc came round again, which was literally 30 seconds ago or something. So I think they've had to wait till the track was actually fully clear before they can send the flatbed out.
Yeah.
Jenny?
Just speaking to Williams, I wanted to find out an answer to your question, as ever. So why was the mechanic sat in the car and why was it not George Russell? I say that's what they always do. A mechanic gets in and runs through all of the setup and gear checks before the driver gets in. So there we go. It's like the royal taster for food. I'll have a bite of your apple and then you can have all of it, if it's okay.
I guess they had the time to do that. With the red flag coming out, they could take a bit of time, get the mechanic in, run through the normal program, and then sit George in the car. If you really push for time, just surely sit the driver in and just run through the checks as quick as you can, and then just send him. But hey ho, they got the time. We're still under red flag. The low loader is out.
Did you run through the checks, or did you have a mechanic do that for you?
Yeah, no, I get a mechanic to do that. It's procedural stuff, though. They
love it.
Yeah. It's just checking, running up through the gears with certain revs and just making sure, just simply ticking through the box and making sure nothing strange happens. But you're not really often doing that as qualifying is underway. That's the rarity. I don't know if I ever had that. In fact, that never happened to me. Someone else sitting in my car as qualifying was underway, running up and down through the gears.
So Stroll's car is just going back onto the truck now. I thought that he would just get wheeled back into this little access area, but maybe it's not big enough to... well, and also rolling the car might be difficult because the front right is torn off it, but it's going on the back of the low loader now, and then the session will resume. So I think we're probably 3 or 4 minutes away from the restart of this session. Charles Leclerc, the only driver to have set a lap time, and Stroll will be starting at the back of the grid tomorrow. It wasn't looking great for Aston Martin anyway, and that also is going to give a bit of a reprieve to someone else in Q1, because Aston Martin maybe were one of the potentials to get knocked out in that first part of qualifying. So now it depends if Russell can get going again, but the 2 Haas drivers, and then it'll just be 2 others that will go out with the Haas cars.
But who are the 2?
Yeah,
that's an interesting question as much as the guys at the front. We don't know who's going to be on pole. The Haas drivers are surely going to be under big threat of going out, as they have done so far all year in Q1. We're only going to have then 2 other drivers, because Lance Stroll's going to be starting at the back of the grid. If Russell can get going, which it looks like he will now, then he's been so good in qualifying in this part that he should be able to get into Q2. Latifi's looked quite good so far this weekend as well, on pace, when his car's not stopped as it did yesterday in FP2. Alfa Romeo have been quite strong recently in qualifying, so you're looking at either a Williams or an Alfa Romeo, or you're getting up towards those midfielders again.
Jenny?
Yes, just catching up with Williams again. They say good news. George Russell is now in the car. Mechanic, disappointing day for him. He was almost there, almost managed to sneak on the helmet and get an F1 drive, but no, he got out of the hot seat at Williams. So, congratulations to Williams. They've done a fabulous job to get a new power unit in there. No penalty, because it's power unit number 1 that's been put back into the car. But, round of applause to them.
Good news for the Williams team. And Russell, I mean, he would have had about 7 minutes to go, or 8 minutes to go, so he would have made it out in Q1 anyway, but just makes it a bit more breathing room.
Yeah, it would have been one set of tyres and a run behind everyone, but as it is, he's basically just an out lap and half a lap behind everyone, because Stroll's crash came so early in the session. Not even, well, just the guy that left the pits first, Charles Leclerc, managed to just squeeze a flying lap in. Everyone else was pushing on their way around at various points and got caught out by the red flag, had to come straight back in. So no loss at all really for Russell.
Funny tweet saying someone edit the Lance Stroll replay onto Lance's crash, which would be, that little meme would be quite amusing. So Stroll's about to head into the wall, and then the replay wipes and then hits Stroll hitting the wall in Monaco anyway, which has been doing the rounds since the Monaco Grand Prix. No time yet when the session will get back underway. Again, won't be very long, but Russell's basically lost nothing, has he, at all? Because if anything, he's in a better position than everyone else now.
Yeah, he's saved the set of tyres. They have not gone through a heat cycle, come out of the blankets, go around for an out lap and then a flying lap, and then back in the blankets and get back to the optimum temperature. Russell's just had them nicely kept in the blankets, and now they can go on the car and get ready for their first outing.
So we are, about 8 minutes delayed so far in this qualifying session for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Stroll won't be taking any further part in the session. Perez had set the fastest first sector on that previous run, 2 tenths quicker than Leclerc had managed. Not many people had come through the middle sector, but those that had were all quite a way away from Charles Leclerc. Ocon and Alonso both half a second or so away, but that's about it of the competitive drivers that have been through the middle sector. So it really was Leclerc all by himself really out on track, the only driver to get anywhere near a representative lap time, and we'll see that rush again with 14 minutes left on the clock whenever the session gets back underway. Still haven't heard when it will be.
90 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Took a while though.
Yeah.
Car was on the back of the low load a good few minutes ago, but and it was not too far away from the pit lane entry where Stroll eventually pulled over out at turn 16 on the left hand side.
Well, it's not far at 200 miles an hour, but on a low loader, must be a couple of K down there, isn't it?
Probably about a K, to the pit lane entry. But you know, you're still in a
moving vehicle.
A moving vehicle, you know, to walk it or push it.
Right, session will restart then in 1 minute, and already you hear cars firing up and queuing up at the end of the pit lane. Haas look like they are at the front of the queue. Then maybe it's the Williams of Russell second in the queue. It's Mazepin, it's Schumacher first, then it's Russell, then it's Mazepin, in that order. And those are the drivers that are going to be trying to get out of the first part of qualifying. The Ferraris are waiting in that queue as well. How much does waiting in the queue really affect you? Or is it just a kind of, in terms of temperatures and all of that? Or is it not? Because I'm not criticising Martin Brundle here in any way, shape or form, but he would always say, you don't want to be waiting on the grid too long, the cars will overheat and that sort of thing. But I've never seen it happen in all the times I've been watching Formula 1 on the telly, when it comes to the grid. So is it a thing, or is it not really anymore?
Not really anymore. At the start of the race, it's really not a thing. I think it used to be a bit more.
Like in the 80s and stuff, and
cars were, I guess everything was run more to the maximum. These engines have got to do such a long amount of races now. They've built a lot more for durability. It's very rare to see just an overheating car. Latifi's car overheated in FP2, didn't it, when he was just in the runoff area. But with a minute to go, the cars are okay to go. So you've got the engine overheating at the same time as the tyres are cooling down. It's a double whammy, but the drivers can take care of both of them as soon as the light goes green. Accelerate down the straight, get some air into the radiators, and maybe a bit of lifting coast into the corners, but at the same time, you've then got to work the brakes to get the temperature back into the tyres on the outlap and do some weaving.
Brand new set of soft tyres going on Hamilton's car then. They ran mediums on the first run. Brand new set as well for Lando Norris in the McLaren. So, but 13, well, I guess they just want to get a lap time on the board, because 13 minutes almost feels a little too early to be putting on your second set of tyres. But you're in that tricky middle ground, I suppose.
Well, it's going to be just one flying lap now, isn't it? They've effectively lost one clean lap of that first run. All the drivers were about to come over the line, then they would have had to do a recharge lap and then go again. They're effectively on their recharge lap, only it's an out lap now, and then they can go and put in a flyer. So, shortened session, but you're still in the same sort of run plan. You've just lost the first time lap, even though they were basically completed it by the time the red flag came out. They just didn't get the time on the board because it came just before they could cross the line, apart from Leclerc.
Verstappen right up behind Fernando Alonso as they come towards 13, 14 and 15. He was right behind him coming through the castle section. First on track then is Mick Schumacher, as previously alluded to. This is where it gets a bit tricky now, backing up through 15 before the run to 16, and Verstappen must be doing what, 10 miles an hour here as he comes down the hill, maybe 15?
Idling in first gear. He's got Sergio Perez just behind him, his teammate. So the Red Bulls have swapped positions on this run. Verstappen's left a nice big gap to Alonso. But again, the tyre's cooling, and then they've got to cool as well, all the way down the long run to turn one. You've got to make sure you don't then lock up the front brakes as soon as you hit them. With the tyres cooling, brakes cooling, you then want to start a qualifying lap in anger. That's your risk, braking down for turn one.
Sainz is coming through turn one now in the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is just starting his second flying lap. And Max Verstappen comes across the line to start his tour of Azerbaijan through the left-hander of turn one, then up towards the left-hander of turn two. We're on board with Verstappen here as he comes down through the gears and then gets on the power up the back straight. And he's on a quick first sector so far. Latifi's still in the pits. It's an interesting one for the Williams team.
Yeah, hasn't gone back out. He's the only driver in the pits now. Sainz has done a big first sector, 4/10 quicker than anyone else apart from Esteban Ocon. And as I say that, Verstappen comes through and goes 1/10 quicker than Sainz. So the times will be tumbling, and already in the first sector, huge amount of gains being made by first Verstappen and then Perez, who's still just behind Verstappen on track by 4 seconds. So Perez getting a bit of a slipstream here from his teammate.
Verstappen weaving his way through the castle section now. Perez has done the fastest first sector, and but Sainz is still on a pretty quick lap. Schumacher does a 44.2, which is 1.7 seconds slower than Leclerc has managed. Verstappen into turn 15, fairly cautious through there, it felt.
Kovic didn't get too far away from the wall, even though it looked quite cautious. Fastest middle sector of anyone, but what's Perez doing just behind? It's actually not as quick as Verstappen through the middle part of the lap, but he will get a good slipstream in the final sector. We'll see what the Red Bulls can do now.
Ocon slots into second place, splits the Ferraris. Sainz has gone quickest on a 42.1, but Leclerc then does a 42.2 to go behind Sainz. Ocon third, Alonso goes into fourth place. Verstappen goes quicker than the Ferraris, and that is by 0.3 of a second, and Sergio Perez goes second. There's a yellow flag out there in, I think, up at turn 15 again. Lando Norris has made it through that sequence of corners and is now coming towards the line. Vettel goes sixth quickest, and into the wall is Giovinazzi. Another almost identical looking incident, but Giovinazzi is buried in the wall and the red flag's out.
Sorry guys, I crashed. Copy, Antonio.
Baku seems harder this year.
Seconds too soon for Lando Norris to get across the line. He completed the lap, but the red flag was already out, so it doesn't count for Norris. We've still only got 10 drivers that have done a lap. 9 minutes to go. They all go back to the pits. This is going to get hectic in the final part. It's the same corner, turn 15. The same corner as Stroll has hit the wall already in this session. Verstappen hit the wall there in FP3. Leclerc hit the wall there in FP2. Giovinazzi looks like he's had the same crash as Lance Stroll. The right front ripped off. Tricky corner, but this year particularly, everyone keeps getting it wrong.
Why?
overcooking it on the brakes, basically, but I don't know why.
But not for the last 4 years, you know what I mean?
Hey, we've had drivers in there the last few years, but just big understeer for Giovinazzi, in a little bit hot, but then couldn't get the front end gripping, and missed the apex slightly, got onto the dirtier part, and bam, into the wall. A shame for him. Alfa Romeo were looking like they had a shot once again of getting through to Q2, but no time on the board for Giovinazzi. He'll start at the back with Lance Stroll.
Latifi had just left the pits on an outlap, so whatever Latifi's issue was, he managed to get going again, but that means, well, had he, of course he hasn't set a lap time, so Giovinazzi and Stroll won't be going through to Q2, Jenny.
Yeah, and the pressure just mounts. I haven't seen a qualifying session like this with so many drivers making mistakes for such a long time. We said, didn't we, in practice, a lot of yellow flags. That probably wouldn't continue for quali. Well, no, it hasn't. There's a lot of red flags instead. But, to be one of those drivers who hasn't set a time now, there's 8 of them with no time on the board. Obviously, take away Giovinazzi, take away Stroll. This is going to be fascinating to see who can stand the pressure. I mean, this is what being an F1 driver is all about, isn't it, Jolyon?
Qualifying is pressure to the max, though. This really sets up your whole weekend. The thrill of driving the car in its best state. The fastest lap times through the weekend, getting right up to the walls, not hitting them, making no mistakes. It's actually sometimes where you feel the most pressure.
What the sector's looking?
So just over a tenth off to Verstappen, who's P1 at the moment.
So not too bad, just got to get a freaking lap.
Only 10 cars have the time on the board at the moment.
Okay, here we go then. So Hamilton being told you're only a tenth away from Verstappen.
He was 3/10 quicker than Bottas in the first sector and was just 1/10 away from both Verstappen and Perez in the first sector. So better for Hamilton, but he hasn't got the lap in. He's one of the 8. His teammate is a second of the 8. The 2 McLarens haven't got a lap. The 2 Alpha Tauris haven't got a lap. Kimi Raikkonen and Nicholas Latifi haven't got a lap either. Yeah, the pressure comes up, but either way, this circuit, the last lap you've got to deliver. So it doesn't really change that fact. It just means that you've got sort of less banker laps to fall back on if something else goes wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's still 9 minutes to go. It's still a fairly big chunk of time.
But not enough time now to do 2 runs. So it's going to be 1 run now. And then what about more yellow flags? What about traffic? Now you start to think about these things, and you could have a massive shock if a Mercedes, or even a McLaren being out in Q1 would be a big surprise. If they catch a yellow flag at a bad time, we've had half the session and they haven't got a time on the board. So another yellow flag, red flag, bit of traffic, and it could be very costly. At least the Red Bulls right now are 1 and 2, and the Ferraris are 3 and 4. They're looking much safer.
This is why I love tracks with high jeopardy. This is why I hate runoff areas. I know we've got to be safe and all of that stuff, but this is what it's about for me. This is, okay, Monaco is high stakes, but it doesn't have the same speed as this track. I think that this is why I like this place, Jack, if you wondered.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the jeopardy. Don't get me wrong. But you can have but this is my point, is you can have jeopardy on real tracks if you just put some gravel down. Then you've got jeopardy on real tracks as well. Make a mistake at Turn 1 Barcelona, you're in the gravel.
Yeah, but the gravel's not there.
No, but that's the thing. Agreed.
What? So, nah, come on.
What?
This is the beauty of Baku right now in this day and age.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you could have it at other tracks if there was proper gravel or walls or old school, but so many of the modern tracks that have had the challenges taken away from it,
totally
like
agree.
Barcelona at Turn 1, or some places at Silverstone as well. It used to be gravel on the exit of Copse. I mean, there's so many great circuits have just had that potential for crashing basically taken away, or even a run through the gravel and a big moment, or getting beached in the gravel, which happened to some at Imola as well.
Question for you: of the 8 drivers who are still to set a time, what are their engineers saying? What are the garages thinking? Because surely you've just got to get out there, do a bit of a Leclerc, get out there first, and just pile on in.
Yeah, you'll see. they'll be making a much more concerted effort to get to the front of the queue. Anyone that hasn't got a time on the board, I'm sure of that. We'll see if the Mercedes, McLarens or AlphaTauris do jump straight to the front of the queue when we know when the track is going to be green again. And then just put a lap in. It's difficult to do too much, really, apart from get a lap on the board. If you're a Mercedes or you're a McLaren or an AlphaTauri, those three teams are quick enough to be getting out of Q1, particularly with Lance Stroll out and Giovinazzi out. 2 Haas cars that will surely be out. They're currently 9th and 10th of the 10 runners. You've only got to beat one other car and you're going through.
Mark says best driver in Q1 is the guy driving the recovery truck. Probably done the most mileage of any of the drivers. Jenny?
Yes, just looking at social media, Marcus Ericsson has been on the old social saying, of course it's frustrating with all the red flags and crashed cars, but I love the fact that turn 15 bites and that you have to pay the price when you go over the limit. Not many corners and tracks in F1 left with that on the calendar. Got to be perfect to be on pole. Hashtag old school. Hashtag we love Marcus Ericsson. He had some issues around Baku, didn't he?
Thought that was his final hashtag.
What happened to Ericsson at Baku?
Was that not
he
the
punted
whole
off
safety?
Grosjean, didn't he?
Yeah.
Is the ghost of Marcus Ericsson caught Grosjean out.
Yeah. What did he do, Jenny? Sorry.
No. It was all behind the safety car when Grosjean crashed, and Ericsson was the one that.
He was 2 seconds behind him, and Grosjean lost it. And his race engineer said, "I think Ericsson hit us." I don't think he did.
And he's just done the Indy 500, so I think he knows all about jeopardy now.
That is why there's a couple of points on this track. The castle, the challenge is taken away a little bit from the castle section where they used to have a big curb which you'd have to run, but if you took it too much or at too bad an angle it would just pitch you into the wall at the narrowest part on the calendar. That's now taken away, so you can run more speed. It's still tight and it's a little bit quicker in fact, but the bounce from the curb is taken away, which removes some of the challenge. Then you've got turn 15, which has just been vicious through this weekend so far. Really quick approach. You come through 2 flat-out left-hand kinks. You're then moving round to the right-hand side, just downhill. It's really quite a tight apex with the wall right there on the exit. No runoff unless you absolutely abort in the braking zone and turn right to a left-hander and whip up the escape road. It is a really tricky one. You've got to decide in a split second if you're heading for the escape road or if you're going to try and tough it out and either be quick or crash. And that is why we're seeing drivers being constantly caught out there. And there's lap time. You can't be too cautious, or you're just too slow there.
Right, cars queuing up now at the end of the pit lane because the session is going to restart in a moment or two. Well, 15 seconds to be precise. The Red Bull's still sitting in the pits, but it is the Williams of Latifi that's at the front of the queue. Then it's Schumacher, then it's Russell. And who else is queuing up as the session gets ready to go underway now? Light goes green, end of the pit lane. Latifi fires it up, heads out on track, followed by Schumacher. Hamilton is in that queue, but quite a long way down the queue. They are at the very end of the start of the pit lane, I should say, Mercedes. So I guess if they're heading out, other teams can see them coming out, but they're a lot further back, I think, than they'd want to be.
It's actually the benefit of being worse in the championship the year before. That's why you get the Williams and the Haas right at the top of the pit lane, because they can just bolt and within a second be queuing up, whereas the Mercedes got to trundle down the length of the pit lane. It's a benefit in the races because they can just dive straight into the first garage and it's nice clean approach, but when you want to go and queue up at the end, you have got a longer wait time from actually leaving your garage to being at the end of the pit lane.
Ben Vinell is a motorsport journalist. He's come out with this fun fact. All 4 drivers who have crashed at turn 15 this weekend raced in the FIA European Formula 3 Championship in 2014 or 15. There you go. Absolutely pointless fact, but I like it.
Did anyone else race in that championship? There's race driving today.
I think Russell... No,
I think Russell was the year after.
Yeah. Well, that's...
Lance Stroll maybe the year after as well.
No, maybe Stroll was champion in 16.
Oh, sorry, Stroll was... and he's crashed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was one of them. Maybe Leclerc? Right, 8 minutes to go then. Everybody on their out laps, getting a replay of Raikkonen. Certainly has. We've had 2 red flags in the first, 9 minutes of action in qualifying here. First it was Lance Stroll that went into the wall at turn 15, and then Antonio Giovinazzi went into the wall at turn 15. So at the moment, it's Max Verstappen who's quickest in the Red Bull. Sergio Perez is second in the other Red Bull, but neither Mercedes, Jolyon, even have a lap on the board yet, and we've got 7 minutes left on the clock.
The pressure mounting. It's the jeopardy of Baku, where the walls are close. We've seen so many drivers go off in practice. I thought they'd be a bit more refined and dialed in right now for qualifying, but 2 drivers have gone off before they've set a lap time. That means many other drivers haven't set a lap time, including the 2 Mercedes, and if right now they're heading out with only 6 minutes and 40 seconds left of the session. They've got a couple of laps. They should have the pace to get through, but more drama and they're going to be in a bit of trouble.
Are you surprised how much drama we're seeing here? We saw a crash in Monaco last weekend, or a couple of weeks ago for Charles Leclerc. Baku, the walls are close. Is it a big surprise?
Well, the walls are close and the challenge is great, but I'm still surprised that you see these in practice when the drivers are building up, finding the limits and occasionally overcooking it. And you do see it from time to time in qualifying, but so early in qualifying, 2 drivers, before they've got even a single lap on the board, their first flying lap, putting it in the wall is a bit surprising, but it is a fast, high-speed street circuit where things are tricky.
Well, this is the first part of qualifying. We're looking for the 15 drivers that will advance through to Q2, and then the final part of qualifying, the battle for pole position. Will the Mercedes be involved in that fight, or will it be Red Bull versus Ferrari? We'll find out in a bit. Full commentary of qualifying on the BBC Sport website, Ellie. Right, Hamilton pushing. The car looks very unpleasant, I have to say. Big oversteer as he came out of the castle section. And he's going to get a lap on the board, though, at least, Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez looks like he's going to set the fastest first sector. Hamilton's half a second down on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. So not bad, not great, but not quite as far adrift as they have been previously. Bottas is, though.
Bottas's first sector was really poor. It was basically on a par with Mazepin in the Haas. Long way adrift. He's not done too bad a job in the middle sector. He's managed to claw a bit back, but he might still be under a bit of pressure. Hamilton crosses the line and jumps up to 4th with the fastest third sector of anyone. So good job in the end from Hamilton. That takes away some of the pressure. Where's Bottas going to go?
8th. 9/10 of a second away from Verstappen, so that's better for Hamilton. It's not really in the fight for pole, but it's at least to be in the mix for the race win tomorrow. I think that's kind of got to be the target for Mercedes, and Bottas at the moment is looking a bit sketchy to get into Q2 in 9th position. Obviously we're not there yet. This is just to get into the top 15, which at the moment Russell, Mazepin and Schumacher are the 3 drivers that would be eliminated.
It would be sketchy for Bottas were it not for Stroll and Giovinazzi not able to set a time. 2 Haas drivers almost certainly going out. They've got a second to find to get on terms with Latifi. There's only one other driver that's going to go with them, and at the moment it's George Russell in 16th position.
But I meant overall Q3 is looking
Q3,
sketchy,
yeah, Q3. But that's where he's been all weekend. Bottas trying to get into the top 10. He's not looked comfortable. He's up in 9th at the moment, but we got drivers struggling to get a lap in. Lando Norris right now down in 14th. He's under some pressure still. 3.5 minutes to go, 1 flying lap. And if the Williams can find something and Norris gets caught out, he could be a big shock to go out.
Norris will also be investigated after the session for a red flag infringement, and Hamilton there was just trying to get past Tsunoda, who pretty much blocked Hamilton. The order at the moment: Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc the top 5, Ricciardo, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, Vettel the top 10, Tsunoda, Alonso, Raikkonen, Norris and Latifi the top 15, with Russell, Mazepin and Schumacher eliminated. But Ocon in the pits at the moment, Jenny.
Yeah, I've spoken to the team to ask if there's a problem for Esteban Ocon. They say no, he's just deciding if he needs to go out again to do another lap or not. And I think conservatively they'd like to stay in the pit lane, and it looks like with 3 minutes on the clock that might be what they're doing, but risky business for Ocon there.
Yeah, it's doable, but it is a risky one.
Latifi will have to find 7/10 to get ahead of Ocon, or Russell will have to find a load more than that, but Russell's maybe got more potential to improve. Should be okay, because there's only one other car apart from the Haas drivers that are going out in this one. But final laps now. Ocon is now stuck to his gun, stays in the pits, and we'll see what happens. The Norris red flag, I can only imagine it's because he finished his lap. The time didn't count, but I think he was too far round to suddenly bolt to the pits. I can only imagine it's because he relatively kept his foot in and finished his lap.
Yellow flag in sector 1. Hamilton is up on Verstappen after the first sector. He's got through wherever the yellow flag zone is, and he's 100th up on Verstappen. So this is suddenly looking a bit more like it, isn't it, from the Mercedes team and from Hamilton himself.
Anyone starting a flying lap now is in a pickle, because there's a yellow flag in sector 1. The session's still running.
Still a yellow flag. It's been a long time.
And the DRS is not enabled, and you can't improve in that sector. So Sebastian Vettel is starting a flying lap now, won't be able to improve unless it was Vettel that actually caused the yellow flag in the first place there.
Well, we'll have a look at that. It's Mazepin off at turn 3. So Nikita Mazepin off at turn 3. He might get another run at this though, because he was only starting his flying lap. There would be enough time if you were starting your lap now to get around and do another lap. Hamilton is flying this time, so whatever is going on at Mercedes, or was going on at Mercedes, it looks like they've turned their tyres on a lot better for this session. Here comes Hamilton to cut the timing beam. Gasly goes up into 6th place, and Lewis Hamilton goes to the top of the times. Now, admittedly, it's 2/10 quicker than Verstappen, Perez, Sainz and Leclerc, who haven't done a second lap, but that is better for Hamilton. Raikkonen goes up into 13th place. Latifi, Schumacher and Mazepin are all on laps now. They all look a bit nothingy, really. I think that might be the order, to be honest, because Latifi and Schumacher are not improving so far.
Norris is 15th.
In fact, Latifi's fully backed off, so Latifi's not doing anything. I think Schumacher has as well.
Yeah, so Latifi I don't think is going to have time to go and start another flying lap. Norris will start another flying lap, so he's got one get out of jail if Latifi were to improve. At the moment, there's only 200ths between Latifi in 16th and Norris going through in 15th position, but Lando can improve. Latifi's out. He's not going to make it around to start another flying lap with 20 seconds to go. So that's it.
Yeah,